Okay, welcome to UTOOLS. This is our session on learning how to live on your own. We have one more session after this week. That will be next week, same time. And it's about branding yourself. So make sure, if you're interested in learning about how to brand yourself, make sure you come back and visit us next week at the same time. But today we have Stacy Boone, who is our guest presenter. She's gonna give you guys some really good tips on how to live on your own. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and give us your email address in the chat, your name, your full name, and your email address in the chat so that we know that you participated. Our theme this week is an inspirational figure. So if you can, you don't have to, but if you can, make your wallpaper behind you a picture of an inspirational figure. So I have Michelle Obama behind me, and I'll let Alex and Stephanie talk about theirs, and then that will give you guys some time to put one up on your own screens if you want to do it. Alex, do you want to tell us about yours?
Cool. Well, mine is, you can kind of see her over here. That's Mary Curie. She is basically the queen of science. She is a physicist that kind of studied radiation, and because of her studies, there have been improvements in cures for cancer. And not only is she the first woman to get a Nobel Prize, she's the first woman to receive 2 Nobel Prizes. So yeah, she's pretty cool.
What about you, Stephanie?
So I picked someone that's slightly controversial. I have Margaret Mitchell. She's wrote Gone with the Wind, which is a controversial book now. But it's, despite that, still very well written, and I really admire female writers, and she's one of the ones I admire most just because I think it's just great when people can do something really exceptional with the written word. So, and she's the one that made me want to be a writer. So I had to pick her. Despite the content, I had to pick her for that. So, and I was like, J.K. Rowling, no, she's controversial too, so I'll just go with my first choice. So
all right, thanks for sharing. Does anybody else want to share before we get started with our presentation? All right, Stacy, the floor is yours.
All right, I am recovering from Margaret Mitchell, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. I am going to ask actually that this be a bit more conversational than presentation-y. So this will feel, will go by very quickly, especially if we're hearing from the adults and the students. Adults, I am going to ask your reflection and your honesty in your experiences. And if you can think back to developmentally, emotionally, mentally, where you were when you were at this point in your life. Think about the supports that you may or may not have had around you. Think about the opportunities you may or may not have stumbled upon, and kind of reflect and share those things. The more open you are, the more that creates a space where students can kind of share maybe some of the hesitancies and the fears, or the things that maybe they've heard that we can kind of mentor and help them with along the way. Students, if you have questions, again, this is meant to be conversational. So this isn't so much where it's like a hold your questions till the end type thing. If we say something that resonates with you, or if we say something that sparks a question in you, or you kind of want us to dispel a myth or expound on something, definitely we are open to you sharing those questions and sharing our experiences with you. So the presentation is more a series of prompts. And can everyone see my screen? Alexandra, I can see you. So can you hold a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Thank you very much, ma'am. All right. So this is one of the funny meme quotes. The horrifying moment when you're looking for an adult, but then you realize that you're an adult. So you look for an older adult someone successfully adulting, an adultier adult. I'm kind of going to use this to open. Oh, I'm not going to be sharing my video today. I didn't realize what I was clicking on. But I'm using this as kind of an open for students to be able to share how they're feeling about aging out of foster care and kind of what the things and worries are, or the hopes and things they're looking for are on their mind. And any of the adults on the line, if you can think back to when you were in their space and their shoes and what the world was like and the things that were facing you, what were some of the things that you were looking forward to in adulthood?
Battery look okay?
I don't know how the battery looks, but can we make sure we're all on mute unless we're ready to share? But if the adults can think back to, and actually I'll ask the adults to go first. If we can think back to that time in our lives, what were some of the things that you were looking forward to as being an adult, and what was one of the things that you were confused or kind of fearful of or worried about? If you could give one or two of each category. Anyone can start.
Okay, so just to restate your question, it was something that we were looking forward to?
Yes.
Right?
So when
that was the first
you were
part.
transitioning to adulthood, yes. What was something that you were looking forward to? It could be
Driving.
I can stay out as late as I want. Okay,
Yeah,
driving.
it was driving because it brought upon a whole another realm of independence.
Okay.
And then I realized I was an adult when I got pulled over by the police.
Oh, well.
Because I wasn't paying attention and I made a wrong turn. I made a left turn when you weren't supposed to make left turns.
Yikes. All right. Was there anything that you were fearful of when you were making that transition and you kind of sat and thought to yourself, man, I really have to figure this out or think through this problem or be prepared when something comes up? Do you remember anything standing out for you?
Oh, man.
If there were 7 things, that's fine too.
Being financially stable, being able to make sure that I had enough money coming in to take care of all of the new responsibilities that I had.
Okay. Any other adults on the line want to share? All right. Well, I will share mine. One of the things that I was looking forward to was college. I knew that college was going to be my ticket out of poverty and my ticket to stability. One of the things that I was always fearful of was housing, and I was very food insecure when I was in college. So those were 2 things that were kind of always a fear for me of how am I going to figure this out. And it felt like there was always a weird in between where I was enough of an adult to be able to get a job and to be expected to have figured these things out. But I didn't know enough about the world. I didn't know enough about society. I didn't know enough about economics and so many other things where I didn't really feel prepared to figure those problems out, even though they landed at my feet. So the big question is, am I a fancy grown-up yet? And this is going to be different for everyone because for some of us, we will feel like 18 makes us grown. For some of us, we will feel like high school graduation makes us grown. For some of us, culturally, when we get married, we might finally be considered an adult. And that can be different for everyone depending on where you're coming from and what new definitions you're developing for yourself. But I kind of want to touch on some key areas today: education, transportation, cash, credit, housing, and relationships. And each of these will kind of act as prompts for those on the line to share what they're looking for. If any of the students want to share before we get into, there's no pressure, but it would be great to hear from you. If any of you want to share some of the things that you're looking forward to as you transition into adulthood, and maybe some of the things that you are fearful of or worried about, or some of the questions that you might have, we're open to hearing those as well. So I'll give a couple seconds if anyone wants to come off mute and share, but if not, again, no pressure. All right, we'll keep rolling. So cash. This is usually the number one thing that students are always trying to get their hands on. So how do I set a budget? Is a savings important? How much will my lifestyle cost? These are all very important questions, especially as you start to transition towards independent living. How do you set a budget? I can send a template that you all can use to kind of play around with. It's in Excel. If you're not comfortable, ask some of the adults on the line in UTOOLS, or maybe some of the ones in your housing who might be able to help you navigate that. But essentially the budget that I'll send, oh wait, I see some things. Did someone just drop something in the chat? Oh, yep, feel free to chat. It's good. That's a great suggestion. Yes, please do feel free to share in the chat if you'd like. But I will share a budget template with you all. It might be a little bit more complicated, but it'll kind of show you some of the things that adults have to typically think about. And I bring this up with the how much will my lifestyle cost, because we often have students who will say, I am going to delay going to college, and instead I'm just going to get a job and try to work as many hours as I can so that I can try to get an apartment, and so that I can try to get a car. And then once I have those things settled, then I'll go to college. However, the way that the world is set up, a lot of students will find that if they skip college to try to go straight to the workforce, they often don't find the jobs that will pay them enough to be able to sustain their own living space and to sustain their own transportation. Because with buying a car comes, if my transmission falls out while I'm driving, how do I maintain that? How do I fix that? And so many students find that they're often living check to check, which is not the goal and not the hope. So it's important to understand that cash is important, and access to cash is inextricably tied to education 99% of the time. We will talk about education in a second, but wanted to make sure I highlighted that because I know many of you are probably thinking that that will be your plan. What a lot of students find is if people were making enough money working many of the jobs that are available to you straight out of high school, people would not be clamoring to go to college in the first place. Yes, a savings is very, very important because, I mean, how many adults on the line can share when something unexpected came up, and when you had the money, it didn't feel so bad, and when you didn't have the money, it felt like you probably couldn't sleep and needed to try to figure some things out. Anybody want to share maybe from this timeline in their life when a savings would have been nice, but they blew money on spring break or something like that instead? Okay, we can keep it cute, no worries. So we will go to the next slide and talk about credit. This, I will ask the students, what do you already know about credit? What are your thoughts about credit? What are the things that you've heard?
You need credit to buy a car or a house or an apartment or things like that.
Pretty much, yeah. So credit is kind of going to be your unlock to a lot of your more reliable things. And there's, of course, good things on your credit report and bad things on your credit report. So some students might be in a situation where their identity was used to open something and they already have credit before they're even old enough to realize it. And sometimes they have to go through that cleanup. Some students are starting with no credit, which is sometimes feeling a bit worse than bad credit. But usually no credit is better than having that debt, right? But credit is a really funny, tricky thing. You can only build credit if you owe debt. If you take on debt, that's really the only way to build credit. However, no one wants to be in debt. So the name of the game is to figure out how much debt can I take on to have a good credit score without taking on so much debt that I can't afford to live comfortably without always owing someone. So how do you build credit? One of those ways that you build credit might be getting a secured credit card from a financial institution. For example, a secured credit card is, let's say that there is Joy's Bank of Awesome-tacularness, and she offers a secure credit card for $300. And let's say that Antoinette doesn't have great credit, but she wants to get a jump on starting over, or maybe she doesn't have any credit at all. And all she needs is $300 to open a secured credit card at Joy's Institution of Awesome-tacularness. So Joy issues her a credit card after Antoinette gives her $300. And now Antoinette has a $300 credit limit on that secured credit card. She spends money on the card, pays it back every month. After a few months where she shows that she's responsible, they're reporting to credit reports that she's paying her bill on time and she's managing her money well. That helps her build credit. But if Antoinette decides one month, I'm never going to pay this bill, she doesn't owe the bank because the money that she gave them was secured. The $300 that she used to open it was already her money. So she doesn't owe them any more money, but they stop reporting credit activity to her bank. To the creditor in the institutions. So once the credit scoring bodies see that she's no longer active with that credit card, she's no longer using it making payments, that might impact her credit. Or let's say that Stephanie is just out of college. She's just got her first big person job and she's making the real bucks now. She's ready to buy a house and get a car and get some furniture. She's going to do it all on credit. So she takes out a mortgage and then she takes out a car loan and then she takes out a loan to buy some furniture and then she takes out another loan to pay for a trip to Japan. I don't know. Stephanie's living a wild life out here. What's going to happen is if she's opening up too many things at once, credit bureaus are going to mark her down because it looks like she's taking on too much debt at once, which looks irresponsible. However, if Stephanie decides I'm going to do one thing at a time, so maybe she decides that getting a house is the most important thing. If she decides that she's going to shop around and look at different banks, so maybe she doesn't want to only look at Joy's bank to see what kind of mortgage she can get. Maybe she want to look at Kylisha's, and maybe she wants to look at Kaylin's bank as well to see who's going to offer her the best deal. Getting all of those inquiries, anytime someone pulls your credit, it's called an inquiry, and getting any of those inquiries on your credit score is going to make your credit score take a tiny hit, but it will help you because it looks like you're being responsible in shopping for the best rate. But if you're looking to take on different kinds of debt all at one time, that's going to make you look bad. It's going to make you look irresponsible. Credit is very complicated and has a lot more nuance than what I just explained. That's just kind of the beginning and the opening of it all, including if you close a bank account, it impacts your credit. If you don't pay your DTE bill, that impacts your credit. So there's a lot of other caveats. The best thing I can suggest to you is to talk to your financial institution. So if you enroll in college immediately, most of those colleges have relationships with credit unions. Sometimes they have relationships with banks. So for example, I did my undergrad at U of M Dearborn, and we have the University of Michigan Credit Union. They have financial services that are offered to you as a member, and those services don't cost anything. They will sit down with you for about 2 or 3 hours, and comb through all of your finances. You bring them all your bank statements from everywhere, you bring them your pay stubs, they pull a credit report, and they walk through and tell you where you could be saving money, what you could be doing to raise your credit score, how to understand how these things impact you financially, and how to even understand how sometimes your credit score could impact whether you get picked for a job. Your credit score goes a lot further than most students will expect. So it's important that once you start inching into adulthood and using your credit, that you are being responsible with it and you're asking the right questions ahead of time. But if you have questions, I would be cautious about going on the internet. I would highly recommend that you reach out to a bank, preferably a bank where you are a member or have an account, and ask them to set up an appointment with someone who can give you some advice. Education. The reason I did it in this order is because most students are worried about money and being able to get housing, being able to get transportation, being able to get jobs. And a lot of these things, how much cash you're going to make in your life, whether you're going to be able to build the credit score that you want, whether you're going to be able to live the lifestyle that you want to live, a lot of that is tied to education. So one of the first things that I want to make sure everyone on this call understands is college is definitely for you. I'm certain that we have all heard people say, well, college isn't for everyone. And some people after high school, they're just done, or they're just tired, or whatever that is. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of deciding not to go to college. The only people who can afford to do that are the people who are born rich. And if that was anyone on this call, we probably wouldn't be on this call, and we probably wouldn't be working, especially not after 5. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say none of us were born rich. With that being said, college is going to be our means of economic mobility. I'm also going to say that college is, again, absolutely necessary. When you look at who is more likely to make money over their lifetime, real money that is above the poverty line, it is people who have credentials that they've earned after high school. As a matter of fact, when we went through the recession in 2008, and then we went through the other recession a little bit after that, and now even going through COVID, most of the jobs that were able to be maintained were the jobs of people who had credentials beyond high school, especially those who had bachelor's degrees. So just by pure number, a lot of the jobs that only required a high school diploma, when there are hard economic times, those jobs typically disappear and don't come back even once the economy has recovered. So anyone who is looking to secure the chances of them having an economically viable future would be someone who needs to look hard and seriously at college. Now, understand that when I say college, as a college access professional, I need students to understand that there are different types of college. College could be a 4-year degree. College could be an associate's degree from a community college. College could be a certificate from a community college or a trade school. College could be an apprenticeship. College could mean you went to school and became a licensed esthetician, or you became a licensed cosmetologist, or you're a licensed barber. That credential beyond high school that shows outlook for making money where you live or where you're looking to live is what is going to be defined as college. So if you are really into makeup, that's what you want to do, go to school and become an esthetician. Go to school and become a cosmetologist. Take the exam, pass, and get your license. That license is your economically viable credential. College does not just mean a 4-year degree, but college means you need to do something after high school. You need to do something after high school. And doing something means you also need to take the exam afterwards to get that license. So for example, for my ladies on the call, or anyone who's going to get their hair braided or get some hair installed, if you, for example, show up at a shop and they tell you need to show up with your hair already washed and conditioned and blow dried, it's probably because they don't have a license to do it themselves. That is not someone who's going to be able to maintain, more than likely, after economic hardship. Please get your licenses. Get those letters behind your name. Does anyone on the call want to kind of share their campus housing or their college housing experiences? Any of the adults live on campus, get an off-campus apartment? Did we all just live at home? Did we live in a tent?
I lived on campus for my first 2 years of college, and then my 3rd and 4th year, I lived in an apartment.
Okay, which was cheaper for you? Do you remember?
The apartment.
Okay. And is that what motivated you to move off campus?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else want to share? No? All right, no worries. Students, I really want you to know, especially coming from foster care backgrounds, a lot of students will worry about, where am I going to live, especially in the summer, because we think that school closes down and everyone goes home. I want you to know that if you are attending a college and you identify as a foster youth, more than likely, they already have that figured out for you. Most schools invest a lot in making sure that housing is available for those students. Most schools have people who are available for you 24/7. If you have questions, if you have a crisis, if you go to a party and it turns out that going to that party was a bad choice and you need a ride home, most of them have someone on campus you can call who will come get you. But you have to identify, because that's not information that's just blankly shared across campus. But most of them will have programs specifically for foster youth. Some of the colleges work really hard to make sure everything will be covered. So a lot of students will worried about, oh man, where am I going to live? What am I going to eat? What if I need clothing? What if I need a computer? What if I need books? And a lot of those things are already taken care of. You just have to apply and show up and follow the steps. So students will say sometimes, I am going to take a semester off and I'm going to work and save up as much money as I can so that I can afford to get an apartment so that I have somewhere to live over the summer, and then I'll go to college. Not knowing that if you let the college know, hey, I'm a foster youth, I don't have somewhere to go that's guaranteed over the summer, they will keep the dorms open for you. Or there's funding to make sure you can get an apartment. There are all sorts of supports in place to help you. You just have to let people know. Also, Joy brought up a great point. Campus housing is often more expensive than apartment living. However, apartment living does require more independence. Apartment living usually means that you don't have to get that meal plan. Sometimes that meal plan is really expensive, but that does mean that you've got a budget now to make sure you've always got money for food. However, please know that the majority of college campuses also have food pantries for students. There are a lot of students who don't live on campus or who even live on campus but get the cheaper meal plans because that's what they can afford, and they will visit that pantry often. Sometimes the pantry will do meat and produce one week, and then they'll do dry goods the next week, and students will visit every other week to pick up the supplies that they need, and that's what they use to supplement their food costs. Some students will work in the cafeteria to be able to get the discount or get the free food, but understand that there are a lot of options for you, and specifically with you being foster youth, there are often people on campus who will be absolute sure to check in with you regularly to make sure that you're eating, to make sure that you have the things that you need for your apartment. Do you have soap? Do you have toiletries? Do you have sheets and things? There are a lot of people on campus and a lot of programs in place to make sure that you're taken care of. You just have to let people know. Also understand that living with roommates can be cheaper. And some students will say, oh no, I don't want to live with another human being. But sometimes that works out better in your favor if it means you can save up more money. And if you can split some of those costs as far as bills go, if you can split some of those chores, sometimes that's helpful. And then once you are transitioning out of college and you're making the big bucks now, and you've got all this money, and you are looking at, just got my first big person job. Do I want to rent or do I want to buy a house? Understand that renting and home ownership have very different responsibilities. If you are renting somewhere, typically your only responsibility is to not destroy the property and to make sure that the landscaping is taken care of. Keep the grass cut, keep the snow shoveled, depending on where you are. However, it will cost you more. You are paying more to be able to put that work off on someone else if a pipe bursts, or if you get termites in the house that you're renting, or if you somehow discover a hole in the floor. Those are things that you would pass off to your landlord. However, when you own a home, if a window breaks, that's on you. If the roof falls off, that's on you too. However, home ownership generally costs less money. So people who own homes save more. However, the best move for home ownership is to get really good at saving your money so that you have a down payment. So it's going to take some discipline to save up that money in order to get to a point where you can own a home. Again, if you have questions about how to budget, about how to save, what it looks like renting versus owning, if you want someone to help you set up a plan with, okay, now that I've got my first job, this is how much I'll be making a year, and this is how much I want to save each year, and then in year 3, year 5, whatever year that is, I want to start looking to own a home. There are people at these banks, at these credit unions who can work with you to help you figure out what that financial plan looks like for you. And if you're curious about whether your particular field is going to pay you enough for the lifestyle you want, you can visit bls.gov, and I'll drop that in the chat. If I can find the chat, here we go. You can go to bls.gov and you can type in pretty much any career you'd like, and they'll tell you what the outlook is, whether there are jobs that are going to be created, how fast it will grow. how much money you're going to make, what education is typically required for it, how many of those positions are already available. It's a lot of information there. Transportation. If you are living on campus, many of you will find that your ID is enough for you to be able to get transportation where you need to go. So for example, if you are a student who is looking at U of M Ann Arbor, if you swipe your UMID, you can ride the Ann Arbor bus system for free. It's included in what you've already paid to attend the school. They also have their own bus system, so Big Blue will drive around campus and pick you up at certain stops and drop you off at others depending on where you need to be. Big Blue also visits Detroit. So if you are a student who wants to live in or near Detroit but go to U of M Ann Arbor and be on campus every day, Big Blue will pick you up from the Detroit Center on Woodward in the morning, drive you to Ann Arbor, and then pick you up and drop you back off in Detroit at night. There are other schools that might have some similar, there's some other schools that might also have some similar setups. So please make sure, can we all make sure that we are muted? Thank you. But there are other schools that have similar setups and similar deals with local transit. So make sure that you are not delaying college because you think you need a car first. As a matter of fact, in a lot of cases, if you are looking to live on campus and go away to college, most of them won't even allow you to bring a car as a freshman. That is a right you have to earn. Most of them will make you put in your stripes as a freshman, and then as a sophomore, you can come back and ask for a parking spot. So that's not usually something that should be your biggest fear, unless or your biggest concern as far as having a car, unless you are planning to go to a campus that is mostly for commuters. Mass transit, if you end up going to college in a city that has it, is going to be your best friend. It is always cheaper to pay for these things up front. So if they sell a bus card for 30 days, get the bus card for 30 days as opposed to getting the bus card for a week. It is always cheaper to buy it long term. So people who, what this ends up being inequitable, and that people who don't make enough to be able to afford that month pass always end up paying up more in most cases because they are charging you more for buying a smaller amount of time. Let's also address buying a car. A car is what is called a depreciating asset, and that is in contrast to buying a house. One of the reasons that buying a house is cheaper is because usually your mortgage payment is just going to be cheaper than your apartment. But the other great thing about buying a house is that ideally you buy it in an area where the value is going to rise. So if you buy a house when the cost of it appraises for $10, you pay $10 for that house, and maybe you spread that $10 payment over 15 years or 30 years, depending on what you decide to do. But by the time that 30 years is up, maybe the values of the homes in that area have risen, and now maybe that house is worth $60, but you only paid $10 for it. So now you have an asset that if you decided, I want to move to a new city, or if you have children of your own and you decide that you want to pay for them to go to college, you could sell that house. You could pull some of the equity out of that home. So that house becomes an asset that makes you money over time. You live in the house and the money makes itself. That's the sweetest deal. However, when you buy a car, the moment you drive that car off the lot, it drops in value. And the more you continue to drive it, the more the value drops. So you have people who might pay $13,000, $20,000 for a car. And then if they try to sell that car a couple years later, it might be worth $6,000, $4,000, even though they've only had it for a couple of years, which is very different from a house, which would normally appreciate or gain value. So please understand that the majority of your money should not be going toward buying a car. Cars do not make you money. Cars do not make you money. Also understand that buying a car is not just the car. It's how much does it cost to insure this car? And your insurance is going to be based on where you live. It's going to also be based on your credit score. It's going to be based on how long you've been driving. It's going to be based on whether you've had tickets or accidents that might make your insurance company say, I don't know about you. But also understand that there's maintenance. Oil changes cost money. New tires every year cost money. Brakes and rotors cost money. Having to repair it if your engine ends up falling out on the freeway. There are a lot of costs that come along with owning a car, On top of the fact that once you buy it, the car starts to go down in value. So please make sure that as you are starting out and you're looking at how to manage your money, that you are putting your money in savings, or if you somehow come up with some extra money, that you're putting it in investments where they might be able to grow your net worth, as opposed to putting it all in a car that might break down and then you've wasted all this money anyway. And then finally, relationships. And I'm going to ask, the students haven't really talked so much about this, but I'm going to ask you to be vocal if you can. And I'll ask the same of the adults as well. Relationships can mean a number of different things. This could be relationship with family if there's still connections there. This could be relationships with educators, with mentors, with friends. This could be romantic relationships. These things will probably apply in a number of ways. This could be employment relationships. This could be networking relationships. Two key things to always ask yourself in all things: am I being asked to change? And what are my boundaries? Understand that growth and change are two different things. So if you right now, today, who you are a good person, if you who you are today are already a good person, don't change. Don't decide, never mind, I'm going to be a bad person. What you should do instead is grow in being a good person. So when you encounter other people in your life, you might find people who have in their mind what they think you should be. And I'm sure that we've met some of these people already, and it will continue to happen. But people will have in their mind what they think you should be, what they think you should be doing, the choices they think you should be making. And they'll just kind of say, well, why can't you just follow my plan? Well, why can't you just do these things I'm asking you to do? And then everything will be great. And sometimes, especially when we are coming from spaces where relationships are not as strong and are not as plentiful, sometimes we find that we hold on to bad situations for the sake of having relationships. So one of the best things you can do for yourself is to ask, am I being asked to change? In any of the situations that you're in. That could be an employer asking you to do something that you don't think is right or ethical. That could be someone asking you to partake in an activity that you are not okay with, or that you don't think that you should. That could be someone saying, well, you should change your major, change what you're studying, or change your life plans or your life goals, or the things that are important to you. And that's the thing I'm going to demand of you if you want my love, if you want my affection, if you want my connection. Make sure that you're setting boundaries for yourself. You know what feels right and you know what feels wrong. And what actual love and connection would and should be would not ask you to compromise those things. The goal is not to find anyone and someone to be connected with. The goal is to find people who naturally align with who you are and what you expect. And that's going to be one of the most important things as you go to college, as you make business connections, as you make friends, as you network, as you go throughout life. Find your people. And that will bring me to the last point of the slide, which is don't stay out of the way. That is such a huge phrase right now. You ask someone how they're doing, oh, I'm cool, I'm just staying out of the way. We cannot afford to do that. Staying out of the way means that we miss opportunities, because when that party is happening on campus with alumni, that's where I could have met my mentor. That's where I could have met my next internship. That's where I could have met my job after college. Or that's where I could have met someone who could have ended up being a lifelong friend. There are so many reasons for you to not stay out of the way. We all have talents. We all have gifts. We all have skills. We all have personalities that people should get to know. We are worth knowing, and we should be sharing that with other people. And one of the most important benefits of going to college, of working with other people, of owning a business, working in a business, is getting to know people, spreading your brand. Your network is literally your net worth. If you know the people who know about the opportunities, you become the person with the opportunities. So you need to make sure that you are not staying out of the way. People want to know you. People should know you. You are worth knowing. Are there any, and I mean, the rest of this, I was hoping this would be a touch more conversational, so we're coming up early on the time. But if there are questions about anything that we've said or talked about, if any of the adults in the room want to add something, if any of the students have comments, questions, concerns, this is the time to throw that all out there.
Stacy, this is Antoinette. Could you please address the issue of colleges letting people come on campus to give credit cards to the students?
Oh, sure. So that is a thing that happens all the time. Once you're 18, you can get a credit card, and sometimes they'll do like, hey, if you sign up for this credit card, we'll give you a free t-shirt. Or if you're somewhere where it's really, really hot, maybe they'll give you a gigantic bottle of water or whatever it is. And you can sign up for those things for sure. And know that every time you sign up for anything that pulls your credit will take a hit. Usually it'll recover unless you're doing it way too much, and then it takes longer for those things to fall off of your credit report. And technically, you can take out those credit cards, but understand that because you're 18, unless you, again, were born rich, you don't have credit more than likely, which means that you are not going to get the best rates. So some people will get a credit card offer if they have great credit, and their credit rate might be, let's say, 2% on the dollar, meaning for every $1 they spend in credit, maybe they pay 2 cents in interest. But as an 18-year-old coming out of high school, going to college, first credit card, you're not going to have credit. That might put you in a position where for every dollar you spend, your interest rate is going to be 17% or 25%, which means that for every dollar you spend, you're paying a 25 cents surcharge. And that money adds up very quickly. And they will target college students because you're new. You probably don't have anyone to warn you against getting that credit card. And you will often swipe, and spend without putting together a budget and without realizing how much you're spending. And then they have you in debt. And every month when that interest comes to call, it's not just on what you've spent. They then look at how much your balance is and continue to add that interest on every month. So if you're not making your payments, or if you're not making your full payments, that interest continues to build. And that is one way that they keep people in a lot of debt. So you will get those offers as soon as you turn 18. And as soon as they can find you on someone's college campus, or as soon as they get a hold of whatever your street address or PO box may be, they will start sending you those credit card offers. Sometimes, some of them will hide things in there that might say, if you don't use the card often enough, we charge you a fee for that. So you might be the student who says, I'm going to get the credit card and then I'm going to cut it up and never use it. That way I always have a line of credit open, but I'm not getting into debt. But sometimes they charge you if you haven't used it in a few months. Or sometimes they might just say, hey, we're just going to close this, which hurts your credit. So if you do decide to get a credit card, I would strongly suggest again that you talk to a financial advisor at a bank or a credit union that you are a member of, or on your campus, to get some advice and know how to navigate those things before you sign up for that. I'm also going to recommend that if you go to a college that offers you loans, don't take out more than what you need right now, because we don't know legislatively what's going to happen with student loans. But you don't want to end up being the student who took out $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 more loans than you actually needed, and you're spending it in freshman year, not realizing that you're still going to be paying those loans off when you're 50.
I just want to say I fell for the college campus credit card. I call it a scam.
Oh man, I mean, it's hard to call it anything else.
I was 18 and I got offered a free burrito from Chipotle.
No, not a burrito.
I did it. I really wanted a burrito.
Oh man.
And nobody had really told me about, credit card interest and all the horrors that come with it on a really high APR rate.
Yeah. So how much did that burrito end up costing you when you paid off that credit card?
I don't remember. I remember just running that card and it took a long time to pay off. So
Do you remember what your credit limit was?
It wasn't much. I think like 1,500 at the time, something like that. It was real low for compared to what I have now, but
Yeah, but think about being 18. Did you have $1,500 of income every month?
no.
So why in the world would they even offer you that, right?
To get you to get their
Exactly.
card. I don't know. I mean, those workers probably worked on commission, every
Yeah,
party open. So I don't know. They're right on the sidewalk, right in front of Chipotle,
man, that's
ruining
so wrong.
dreams.
Did you at least get the guac in your burrito?
I got a good burrito out of it. I will say that.
Okay, all right. Maybe that made it a little bit worth it then. But students, definitely be aware of that because they will catch you in something. College students are always hungry. Free food is probably one of the biggest benefits of going to college, and they will absolutely use that against you. And they will absolutely offer you more money than they know that you can. Trust me, they have so much data on how much the cost of attendance is at these schools when they visit. They know exactly how much tuition costs. They know what meal plans are. They know how many work study students are there. They can tell how much money is being given out in work study jobs. They know what the median income is for families in the area, for students in the area. They have all that data. So when they're offering you $1,500, knowing that you only make $8 an hour, they know exactly what they're doing. Many of them are offering those cards, hoping to trap students. And I will also caution you against trusting the institution that's offering you the card unsolicited. So if you're asking them, are you sure this is going to be okay? Are you sure this isn't a bad idea? Understand that there are banks that have been fined by Congress after they've got investigated for taking people's information and opening credit card accounts without the person asking for them. And then people realize, oh, wow, this gigantic bank just opened up credit cards for thousands of people without them asking for it and without telling them that they did it, which means they pulled your credit and you got a credit hit. And now you've got a line of credit you didn't ask for. So please make sure that you understand the banks that are offering you these credit cards when you are that young and they know you don't have any funding are not being friendly. Many of them are, like Stephanie said, being paid commission to try to get you to sign up for that, and your debt becomes their bonus. Please make sure you are being careful. Thank you so much for that, Stephanie. I want to hear from some students. What's going on? What are you all thinking? How are you all feeling about transitioning? Do we feel ready? Do we feel like we got this?
I mean, I didn't have a choice, so here I am in my own apartment.
Oh man. Is it work? Do you feel good about that though? Do you feel good about where you are? Do you feel safe? Do you feel like you got a good deal?
No, I was just saying, I didn't really have a choice but to be ready to get my own apartment.
Yeah.
Thank God for the GAP program though.
Oh, can you speak more about that in case there are other students who aren't aware?
Yeah, it's a graduated apartment program. And basically what they do is they take you off the street or whatever your situation might be, and they'll put you in a housing unit. In my case, I got put into an apartment. Okay. And then they'll give you time to get a job or whatever, and then your rent will be like 30% of your income, or like mine is a maximum of like $275 a month. Okay. And they just basically help you get ready to get on your own, and they help sign you up for the Section 8 voucher. When you move in, they also give you furniture. I got a bed, a kitchen table, a TV stand. Excuse me. Yeah, I got a bunch of good stuff. Okay. And then part of the requirement of that is going through at least 3 weeks of therapy with a therapist just to make sure you're adjusting to being on your own. Mm-hmm. And everything. So I can actually, I went through a program called the New Foster Care, which basically picked up the ball from where foster care left off, and it's a nonprofit, so like nothing to do with the government or the state of Michigan. Everything is from donations and whatnot. So
Okay. I am going to drop that in the chat for everyone. That is a really great resource. Thank you so much for sharing that.
oh yeah, definitely. No, I was just gonna say the GAP program goes for 2 consecutive years or up until your 24th birthday.
Okay.
And then the new foster care program goes all the way up until 29, I believe.
Oh, perfect. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great.
definitely.
That sounds like a really great resource. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I did drop that in the
Yeah,
chat
no problem.
if other students want to copy paste so that they can learn a little bit more about the experience she just shared, and see if there are services available to you, that is in the chat. Make sure you copy paste that to your browser before the call ends. I'm not sure if the chat is shared out with everyone after the call ends, so just make sure you screenshot it or copy paste it before this ends. Thank you again so much
I'll
for
also
sharing.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna give that information over to I'm gonna text Miss Katie that information after this call is done with.
Perfect.
I just like to remind you that our session next week is on branding. It's on Tuesday at 5 o'clock, the same time. I'll let Alex in just a minute talk about social media and UTOOLS. But before that, I just want to remind our participants that we're offering some gift cards for those of you who have participated, and some really nice gift cards for those who have participated the most. And so if you've missed any of our sessions, you can access those from our YouTube channel, and Alex will tell you how we'll explain all of that in just a second, how to get to the YouTube channel and how to watch some of our sessions that we've held in the past. Okay.
Basically how it works is that if by any chance you missed a couple of our sessions, all those sessions are being recorded and they're going to be posted on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube right now, make sure that you go into the description and fill out the survey. That way it lets us know that you watched and participated, and so we can keep your name in, so you can be part of this wonderful raffle prize. So and then once again, you can follow us on our social medias. So we are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube under UMD Trio Programs. Facebook, we're under UTOOLS College Prep. You can also find us on the departmental website on the University of Michigan Dearborn under the Office of Trio Programs. And if by any chance you need to reach out to us, ask us any questions, you can find our email under utoolscollegeprep@gmail.com. And then also feel free to follow our sponsor, MCAN. And yeah.
Do we have meetings every week?
So we've had meetings for the past 5 weeks. Next week is actually our final virtual session. And then we're going to go into our summer planning. We usually do these sessions in person, and so we're going to try to do that this summer.
Oh, okay.
So we've got one more. And other than that, enjoy the beautiful weather outside today.
Thanks. Have a great one, everyone.